Hello and welcome to Huey Models Kit View Time. Today we've got Kitty Hawk's latest release. This is the 1/48 scale UH-1N Huey, also known as the twin Huey with the modern engine. Not to be sort of mistaken with the Venom, which is the four-bladed total different monster to this one. This is more your sort of classic Huey, but obviously it's got the upgraded with the twin engine system. So we have seen this kit before. We're assuming it's just a little bit of the upgrade from the H version or the D version hybrid that they did before. But it'd be interesting to have a look in the box, see exactly what we've got. And notably, we do get some crew figures with this one as well. So, as you can see, lovely box art on the front. They actually, I do like their ones, they do it, especially with their helicopters. It's always in that sort of striking movement pose, things like that. And obviously being a complete Huey fan, as a lot of you will know, you'll know I get quite excited over Hueys and things like that, okay? You can see down on the box, we do get a couple of crew figures down in here, so it's quite nice. We actually obviously get a pilot, co-pilot, and the gunner engineer as well. All right, on board. We've got photo etch, nice touch, and it looks like we get some very nice sort of schemes with it as well. So your kit number for this one is 80158, okay? And then round on here some of the other schemes. And I must admit, if they pick the schemes, they're the ones to do, because I absolutely love this one here. The navy one's actually quite nice, but the rescue bird is particularly nice as well. So, usual thing, into the box. We are greeted by, we've got the book, which we'll start with. Okay, so we've got a little booklet right the way through, usual way of going through these things. So to start with, we've obviously got the actual blades being fitted down there, the swash plate, all the various bits and pieces down on this one, as you can see, making up the actual rotor head itself. Then we go into the actual tail system, usual thing, two halves together, all the rest of it. If you've ever built one of these before, it's basically just the same. Okay, down in the cockpit and all the rest of it, so we've obviously got the flight controls, the rudders, cyclic, collective, things like that. Center panel goes in there as well, so that's all being fitted in. And then we've got the instrument panel, the seats, then we've got obviously everything going around in the rear. So we've got the rear areas down in here, the bulkheads down at the back, then obviously we've got the seats being fitted down into that one, so forth and so on, as you might imagine, okay. Then we've got down in here, which is really nice, both the big twin turbine engines are actually in the kit as well. So you're making up the engine bays for those and those in there. That we'll look at in a moment, because obviously that's all our colour callouts. So as you can see, all of those being fitted down in there and the various wall systems being put in. Then you've got the outer sort of fuselage skin being fitted down into this one, and then more bits going on, roof lining, roof, things like that going into this one, as you can imagine, making up all the sort of parts to it. Working on the actual rooftop with the exhaust systems, all of those being fitted in there. Talking about putting the crew in now, because obviously I think it'd be quite difficult to try and slip them in once the glass is in, so that's why it's talking about that first. All right, and then obviously sides going on for the actual doors, things like that being fitted on, and then the actual windscreen and overhead panel. Again, we've got this way of doing it with the actual skis. Would be nice if they were in one piece, just so you've got them, you know, sort of with the right geometry for those skids. Okay. A little bit of photo etch going down underneath the bottom. We've got the flare camera being fitted, depending obviously on which version you're doing with this one, and all the other equipment on the belly. Okay, obviously it is going to be specific to versions you're doing, as is the top. We've actually got the wire cutters being fitted down on this one, being fitted in, and then we've got the guns. So obviously we've got the sort of 50 cal, the minigun being fitted down here, rocket pods, and then obviously those being fitted onto the actual stations onto the outside. Okay, last up then, obviously we've got the actual doors being fitted on those things, and obviously a drop in for the actual gearbox and rotor head and rotors and everything being fitted down in there, and then the tail boom being slotted in the back, and that completes it. Again, pretty much what we've seen from the other Hueys, as we know. Now, as we know, these painting guys look a little bit funny the way they're done. You see, that is an absolute stunning one down in there. With the Marines markings in that classic with the grey. One of my all-time favourites, if I'm honest, okay? Then obviously these fold out. We've spoken about this before, the way they look. You can probably see that's the one you're doing there. So as you can see, it's like a split one over both sides. So that's the way you sort of have to do these ones. But again, flicking through, you can get the gist of it with the actual markings. So we've got the Air Force one, very nice indeed. And then we've got Marines one, the modern Marines with a light and dark ghost grey scheme on this one. And this one down in here, which I absolutely love, which is probably easier to show you on this one, for the rescue bird, for the Navy one from Fallon. And I love it with the day glow orange and the white and everything else. Classic Huey in its environment. So any one of those schemes, absolutely love them. So let's have a look at these first. This is our figures. They're not taped in, are they? Not no tape. They've given up on the actual tape. Okay, so down in here, if we just move to a closer camera, we can see our little figures. Okay, these are cast in one. They're not 3D printed or anything. And again, right the way down to his finger pointing. Really very, very nice. He's got his visor down and everything right the way to his gun, which is very nicely off molded. It's not like stuck to the side. It's like a separate piece being fitted down on there. Then we've got the, I assume this will be your sort of co-pilot down in here. It might be the commander, whichever way you want to have it round. Again, he's got his pistol down in there, got a little bit of webbing from the moulding, things like that. But again, very, very nicely done, especially in the scale. We've seen obviously some beautiful ones recently. We've been reviewing their 35th scale stuff, notably the Black Hawk, but definitely these are beautifully done as well. And then obviously we've got kneeling down for whichever gun I assume he wanted to hold. I presume he's actually holding either of them in that position. But again, very, very nicely done on those. So again, it's great to see we get crew figures right out of the box as well. So they're just in the box, ready to go. Okay, next up we get another box, which we'll do first for a change. Down in here we have the clear parts. So, have we got no easy way into these? No, we don't. Okay, let me just grab a knife. Okay, so down in here we have the clear parts, which as you can see are beautifully done. There's a little bit of wobble maybe down on these. You can probably see that it's a little bit wobbly, but it is a complex angle, and I think if you got your finger in behind it, because obviously that's the way it would be. So it's got quite a ripply. You can probably see it running through on that screen how that actually is. All right, but generally the rest of it isn't too bad. But again, there's quite a bit of distortion down here in the footwell ones as well, the various things. But yeah, I think generally, because of their nature of it, they're not too bad. These side windows are beautifully clear. You can probably see there's no distortion in those at all. And these are obviously bulged side windows as well, or you've got the flat options, whichever way. Okay, so yeah, a little bit ripply and things going on there. As I say, I'm not too worried about it. I just hope they fit, which is always my thing with clear parts on helicopters, because doing around windscreens and all these areas with fill up, because it's so close to the clear part, can obviously give you lots of problems. Okay, so whilst we're there, let's just dive into these, because we've got a zip bag here. Okay, so we have our photo etch, actually, very nice, some good things. So obviously we've got all the harnesses, some of the grill work, and some of the smaller details, and some various things for underneath, some strapping, bracing, things like that. Okay, so that's very nice. And then we've got the decals. Okay, again, they feel quite raised and a little bit thick, if we're honest. Hopefully you see that probably on there just like that, catching it in the light. But generally I think it's pretty much adequate. Just a little bit thicker perhaps than you would be hoping for. Okay, but those look very nice. Good register. The wording all looks pretty good. Just a little bit basic perhaps down here on the instrument panel. Might have been nice to see some more realistic rather than generic, shall we say, instrument panels on there. Okay, so into the meat and pitch. So, not actually having access to the earlier versions of this, I'm not sure what's new and what's old. I'm assuming because the way that this one's got for the twin engines in, this is totally new tooling for this one, because obviously it's got a different back on it and various things like that. So I'm assuming this is a new sprue completely on this one, if you guys can see it. There we go. So you can see, very nice. Flash wise, we've just got some tiny little bits, but nothing really you would actually harp on about. It's all recessed details on all of this, which is a slight walk away from the other ones we've seen. Some of the other ones, actually, no, that's, yeah, it's funny because some of it's raised, some of it's recessed. Some of the stuff you expect to be raised is recessed, and vice versa. So let's have a closer look. So what we're talking about here is obviously beautiful details. You can see up here on these parts and everything else and all of these, and this is actually raised riveting detail, no problem with all of this. But then some of the other stuff is actually recessed details. Okay, so again, it's got bolting and then light riveting is done, but again, it's got absolutely stunning surface detail, which all of their helicopters absolutely have They are fantastically well done, I have to say. And being a Huey fan, you're looking around them and you're noticing all the stuff that's there. So obviously the research is 100% spot on with these things. So it's very, very nice. But over here, as you can see, beautiful details down in the back here. And on the other side, we've got the textures for the anti-slip, all on these areas and the various things. That's absolutely beautifully done, no problem at all. Again, this flooring with the actual tie-down points, catching it in the light, you can see it, is very, very nicely done. And again, all of these parts catching it in the light, everything's going to take a wash and weather in really, really well with these. And that's why I like it. But this floor section is like a work of art all of its own. That is really very, very nice. Incredibly well done. But basically, I must admit, you can't fault any of it. It has got a little bit of ejection mouldy things going on down in here. We've got some, you're going to have to be careful with some proud ejector pins. You want to make sure they're flushed and out of the way before you start fitting it together. Test fitting and dry fitting is pretty much going to be essential on this one. But generally, very nice indeed. Okay, so down in the back end, I'm assuming, just as I say, because when you review as much as I do, it does tend to blur into one, but generally it does look like we've actually got completely new tooling for all of this, because I can't see any of the older Huey in this, which is quite nice. And again, the thing is, when you're looking around on it, some of the details in here are far better than you might be thinking. Certainly like the instrument panel over here, when you look at, you know, what you get from a decal point of view, it's far nicer here. Just a light dry brush right the way over and pick out some dials and things like that. It'd be a lot better than you will be with the actual decals. But generally, as you're looking around it, you can see very fine, very nicely done. No problem with those at all. Right the way down to the handles, things like that. Nice fine details right the way in. Again, very, very nicely done. It's got a lot of detail in a 48 scale kit. Again, what we were talking about where, you know, obviously we're in 48 scale land in here, but it's got as much detail as you find on the 35th scale stuff. So very nice indeed, right the way down to the turbines. So that's all really very, very nice in all of that. Can't complain with any of that one. Okay, so next up we've got the actual blades, which look to be the correct ones for a change. They look very nice with the laminations and everything on that, but again, beautifully done, very fine details. Just love the attention to detail on this kit. Again, because it's 48 scale, you would assume it's probably not going to have much going on inside, but actually it's got oodles of presence right the way on all of this one. So let's have a spin round here. It's got a little bit of flash in some of the parts, things like that, which are going to be a little bit of clean-up work without trying to break everything on these because they're that small, but generally looking through, no problem. Right the way down to the fabric type marks down in these, with the engines right the way through, all the other parts, very nice. The sort of fly bar down in here, moulded in one, which is quite a nice touch as well. Okay, and then on the other side, we've actually got the tail rotor, some of the systems all the way around here, the main rotors in there. And then obviously we've got the bracing and everything for the weapon stations as you're making your way up, so, and seating. So very, very nice indeed. Again, just making sure these ejector pins down in here are knocked out of the way so they don't actually interfere. They will push and flick out just like that. Okay, because otherwise you're not going to get your two halves of engine together with those two, because they are a little bit proud as they sit down on here. And again, there's the odd ejector pin at the back, but to be honest, you're not going to see those in a couple of swipes. You know, on all of these, you can see it's quite a gnarly one there. But yeah, generally I don't think that's going to be an issue because they're not front and centre. Okay, last up we got the weapons and we got the doors. Okay, so this I think is the generic just off the other one. Just the way I'm looking at it. Because it's got M60s and things on it, so I'm assuming this is from the D. So they're using generic parts from the Huey, such as the skids, the rocket pods and things like that for the D. So apart from that, and again, you know, various things, I'm assuming, we just check on these ones. So that's the D as well, because actually it says it on the sprue. Just checking around on here. Yes, new sprue. That's a new sprue, and yes, okay, so it's 2 new sprues, 2 old sprues. So that's what they've done. They're using this one as the end because it's got all the twin stuff down in here amongst all of this. And then on this, these 2, they are the generic ones. Hence, whilst you get these, the older engine, just the 2, and then obviously for the more modern engine on that one. So there we go, that explains that little one. No, you can't backdate or anything because they're completely different birds. But that's why we've got these engines down in here, and obviously the rotors are the same as well. I thought they changed the rotors, but there we go. So that's not a problem. So that's basically the same as we've seen before, with these sprues being the more generic ones with everything on here, but it's got the different sort of tails, things like that on this one, and the different seats. It's got the older style seats, things like that in here, but some of the other stuff is generic. And to be honest, you've got stuff down in here for your spares box, such as M60s and things like that, which obviously you're not going to use on the other one. And there we go. Again, it's one of those ones where it's a Huey, it's beautiful, but honestly, I want to see it in 35th scale. But that's me just being me, because I like bigger helicopters. We've got the Wessex on the go over there at the moment in 32nd, which is even bigger. But I always think helicopters look absolutely fantastic in 35th scale. They're about the right scale. You know, when these ones are a little bit smaller, but if you're in a little bit of limited for room, stuff like that, you're not going to be disappointed with this, because the amount of detail that's in this is everything you'd find in a 1/35th scale anyway. It's just going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact, which is going to cause you a few little headaches then getting in amongst all the little details on this one. But definitely, if you're a helicopter fan, if you're a Huey fan, this is exactly where you're going to go.